How are you? This is Jim Prusak from the Pain PT. Good to see everybody here today. I have another success story which I love to bring to you guys. I have Elisabetta here. Elisabetta, how are you doing today?
I'm very fine, Jim. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Yeah,
Tonight
once
here
you,
because I'm in Italy, so it's
I was
night
gonna
here.
say, tell everybody where you live.
I live in Sardinia, in Italy,
Sardinia, which
and
is a place that I've always wanted to go. I haven't been there yet, but at some point I'll get there. It's a beautiful place.
I'll wait for you here.
Yeah.
I owe you many dinners. You know?
Okay, well, I'll take you up on one dinner. We'll do that.
All right.
Sounds like a plan. Well, so good you come on and wanted to share your story because I think every story is different and every story has elements of the same nature in terms of what
Mm-hmm.
people are doing to get better. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to turn it over to you and just have you start from the beginning and share your story.
Well, first, before starting, when I was kind of recollecting my thoughts a bit, I thought that I was really happy to be here because so many times I was on the other side of the screen to look, to watch success story, and I often cried, and I cried for two reasons. One is because I related to the people because it's crazy how similar stories are. No matter how different the symptoms are or the stories, the background, the nation, whatever, but there are common aspects, and I felt I was no longer alone. So that's the first thing. If someone is watching, you're not alone. And second thing, I remember I cried because I said, I so want to be there once, one day I want to get there and do a success story, but it seemed impossible to me to get there, and here I am. So it it
Here you
works,
are, which is
and
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
like
Oh,
like like Dan Buglio says every day, this stuff works. Yes, it works. So I'm
it
happy.
absolutely works. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the audience what you went through? What
Yes.
happened?
Yes. So first of all, I work as a translator. So the pandemic here in Italy was a very, uh, I'd say, dark period, a heavy, difficult period. And during the lockdown here, I had a lot of work. And I don't know if there was some physical cause at the beginning. Probably my chair was not ideal. I was working long hours, but story is that at the end of the lockdown, I started having a mild pain in my groin and in the hip, but it was fine. Came and went, and I had it checked, and it was okay until I started having a pain in my sacroiliac joint. So it's basically at the bottom of the spine on the left side. And also the other two pains I mentioned, groin and hip, were on the left side. Uh, the strange thing of this pain is that it never went. It stayed there no matter what I did. So I immediately got a bit scared because I never felt pain that was basically there all the time, and I didn't have any accident. There was no apparent reason for it. And the scare is important because fear starts coming there. And so I started what I call pilgrimage of exams and visits and MRIs and CT scans and whatever you. But they couldn't find anything big. Yes, I had some bulges. I had normal stuff that everyone has, but the pain wouldn't go. I tried with painkillers and they wouldn't go. So they finally gave me opioids because I couldn't sit. The pain was so strong that I couldn't sit, but it was there 24 hours. So opioids just made it worse because I basically couldn't drive. I couldn't have my life. I also had all the side effects of heavy meds. And probably because of fear, I started having other symptoms. So pain in the ribs, the collarbone, the neck, the calf.
Started
About
spread started spreading around the pain.
But only in the left side.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's really one of the features of TMS, that for some reason, it has some weird patterns. And then I got also burning sensation a few months after. I started having burning sensation in my hands, in my feet, and burning tongue as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, my blood work was all over the place. Okay, I have inflammation values that were skyrocketing, and the immune system value were skyrocketing. So I saw a hematologist, rheumatologist, and whatever. I tried so many different therapies and treatments, and I traveled all over Italy to try to find a diagnosis, basically. And I got several different diagnoses.
What were some of the diagnoses that you received?
Well, some orthopedicians said that it was the scoliosis, for instance. I have a mild scoliosis, but it never, gave me a problem. Some others said that it was I have a basically slight difference in the pelvis is not aligned, so I have a slight difference between the two legs, and they said it was that. Or they said that it was the bulging, or they said that it was I had the sacroiliitis, so they wanted to fuse the joint with an intervention, with a surgery. I was already in a waiting list, and I refused to do luckily to do the surgery, because to me it didn't make sense to fuse a joint that would hurt more when I was actually standing still or sitting. So when it was actually not moving, I had some relief when I walked. So it didn't make sense to fuse it for me.
Yeah, and then even just your history, getting your history, like you had no physical injuries, right? You had nothing of that sort.
No.
But like you said, you had a lot of stress around the pandemic in your work.
Yes.
And I know a couple of things happened with the work that was very stressful that might have been predisposing towards this.
Yes. Well, as I said, the pandemic here was bad. So the first time in my life, I was really, afraid for my family health, my parents, and during the lockdown, I was assigned a job, and I was exposed in social medias, because I was a translator for this particular task, and there were some shaming around it. And my job is pretty solitary, so I was never exposed to something like that. So yes, probably that caused stress. And also I think I felt responsible, because many people here couldn't work, and I was one of the few that had a lot of work. So I didn't want to say no to work. I took on a lot of work. I was working probably 12 hours a day every day.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it was definitely a stressful period, but of course, I could not do the connection between that and the pain.
Yeah, and
I
it
was
sounds
looking
like
for
none of the doctors were making that connection either. They wanted to do
no.
surgery on your back, which is incredible.
Yes, yes, and the problem is that they wouldn't talk to each other either. So what I feel is that many patients with chronic pain have a very solitary journey, because you go from one doctor to the other, and if something, or from one treatment to the other. I had physiotherapists, osteopaths, whatever. And if something doesn't work, then it's you to decide what's the next step. You don't have anyone with you saying, okay, you have this problem, let's try this, and if it doesn't work, let's try this one. But you don't have knowledge to decide what to do. So I really felt powerless and lonely very often. I
Mm.
spent almost 20,000 euros in 1 year in visit doctors, or almost 2 years. And so I had a huge problem, because I had to work in order to be able to pay for the health issue, but the health issue prevented me from working. So it was really hard. It was a
And
hard period.
you during that time you continued to work. Is that right?
Yes, I worked standing or kneeling down, or I bought a lot of cushions, so I had the cushions everywhere. But I mean, yes, probably psychologically they were kind of relief, but no, the pain was still there. So I worked through the pain, but it was really all of you know that it's hard, it's terrible, and I cried, and I only wished to have a few seconds of non-pain. of
Yeah.
relief from the pain.
Yeah, because your pain was there, like you said, 20 all the
24
time. It wasn't
hours
like it
all
went
the
away
time.
and came back. Yeah. Constant,
Yes.
continuous pain.
Constant pain. Plus all the other ones, okay? But the other ones could come and go or go
Right.
up and down. Yes.
I wanted to ask you too about the blood work because you had markers that were all over the place. Had you had any
Yes.
problems before like that, or that just was new to you when
It
you
was
went?
new to me because I have regular checks because I had a problem with my kidneys when I was 22. So I know that my blood work usually is normal. And in this moment, it was all over the place. So that's why they started looking for a rheumatologic disease. They were almost sure it was there, but it would not show up. So they couldn't give me a treatment for that because I didn't have the markers for the specific diseases.
Mm,
And so it was a very let's say in between situation where one doctor will send you to the next one, okay, the neurologist and the surgeon, and no one can actually understand that you are a person, not a case. And so it's very frustrating. And that, of course, well, it just builds up the fear in you, the
mhm.
scare, because you feel that you have something and they can't understand what you have.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's like such a breeding ground for anxiety, right?
yes,
I mean,
yes,
if people already have anxiety to begin with, and then when you're not
yeah,
getting answers, of course you're going to have more
yeah.
anxiety.
I think, if you continue that path, it can only bring, after anxiety, it can only bring you to depression because you feel you are doomed. Okay, so there
Mhm.
is no way out of it. And so I really feel for everyone who ends up in bed and that doesn't know what to do. Um, so at this point, more or less, it's where I heard about Sarno because I had subscribed to all sort of Facebook group about sacroiliac joint, and many of them were American groups. And in one group I remember I read about Sarno, and I even bought the book. But this was something like July. I bought the book, I started reading, but it was not the right time. I know that many people have that, that experience. They start reading, but it's not the right moment. So it didn't resonate with me, and I just left and I kept on with my physiotherapy and on everything that I was doing. But there was one event that was weird. So it was summer here. It's an island, and we have beautiful summer here. And I wanted to have a couple of days of holidays because, as you know, when you are in that condition, or your life turns around the pain, and also your family life turns around your pain. So I felt guilty that my family couldn't take holidays for me. So
Mm.
I decided to. We went to some place, and it was a 4 hours drive to get there. And my boyfriend was really afraid because he said, you can't make it, we're going to stay 2 days there, but you won't enjoy because you will have the 4 hours drive and you won't be able to stand to walk around. But I did, and those 2 days were fine. I mean, yes, the pain was there as usual, but it didn't get worse. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
On the moment I didn't think about it. So, but the thing is that one week after that, I had a very relaxing day where I spent the whole day laying down on my sunbed. So ideally it was fine, but by the end of the day I was devastated with pain. I couldn't even get out. So I started thinking it doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Okay, there is no logic to it. And I
Right.
have to mention that my boyfriend is a physiotherapist. And of course, he had tried everything on me, and he was frustrated at least as much as me. And he would say, it doesn't make any sense because they can't find on your MRIs and your CT scans and everything something that justifies the extent and the length of your pain. Because
Mhm.
he always repeats that the body heals. Even if you had something, the body heals
That's
naturally.
right.
After some time, it heals. And in your case, it doesn't. But there is no other reason to understand why it doesn't heal. So there was that disconnection. And again, on the internet, I found someone who was cured reading the book, the Sarno's book. So I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll give it another try. And I read it, and it clicked. I mean, nothing happened from the point of view of the pain. I'm not one of the lucky ones that read it and it goes.
Everybody
But
was probably waiting you to say, "Yep, it clicked and the pain went away," but no,
yeah, no,
that's true for you.
it just clicked.
You
It just clicked.
understood it. Yeah, you understood it.
It
But
clicked
nothing happened at
only
the time.
intellectually, and that's it. So no, what I felt is that it made sense. It made sense much more than any other thing I had tried. Okay, because at that point I had run out of other options, and I knew that medicines wouldn't work. I had tried several types of opioids, and they would just increase the dose, which is terrible. Because at some point I was numb and I was sick. I couldn't live my life. So basically, I felt hope, and that is a big one for me. Okay, for the first time I felt hope. And I remember after I read the book, and I was starting reading other books because I bought Schubinner's, Hanscom, Alan Gordon's. So I tried to read first and understand. And I remember once I went to see some friends. We were at the barbecue, and for some time, and I can't remember how long it was, but for some time my attention moved away from the pain. And when I went back to it, of course, the pain was there, but I realized that for that time, I hadn't felt it. So already having read the book, I knew that was that. I knew that was the way to be followed. And I remember that moment, it was like a miracle to me. I realized that I really had hope, and I had the power, which is something that I had missed for all the time. I told you I felt
Mhm.
powerless,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I had the power. For once, I didn't depend on other people, treatment, medicines, doctors. I had the power to heal myself.
Yeah, you notice a shift in yourself, a shift in your brain,
Yes.
and a shift in your pain. And even if it was for that short time, you go, wow, something really happened there. And you thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, no, like you said, nobody was treating you. You were there with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that kind
Yeah.
of gave you a sense of hope and empowerment.
Yes. And so I stopped. Oh, well, no, before stopping, after reading the book, and maybe some people can relate to this, after reading books, I collected a lot of information. I didn't know what to do with this information. So I started the TMS Wiki program, and I did it all. And so I think it's 1 month more or less. And I had Curable as well, Curable app. And so in this time, I started journaling because the TMS Wiki makes you journal. And journaling never worked for me, in the sense that it helped at the beginning, maybe just to dig into the past and understand maybe some past issues, but it never worked in the terms of letting go or expressing my emotions. It always felt as a task for me, like a
Mm-hmm.
homework. Okay, so I stayed there half an hour writing, but it didn't have that power that I found later on, for instance, with meditation or in nature, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So um, the first thing that I did after I started the TMS Wiki and Curable, I acted. So I am very logical, very practical. So the first thing is I went back to physical activity, which I missed a lot. So I started running again, well, jogging again. And I was in pain. Of course, I was in pain, but it didn't get worse. And that was enough for me to resume that, because of course, I was afraid. I remember I cried at the beginning because I said, I don't know what's going to happen when I go back home, but it would just stay there. And at least I could have my life back in terms of physical activity.
So you
And
started jogging again and running,
I started,
even though you had the pain, you were still running.
yes,
Great.
I still run because I felt good. I felt back to myself. And that gave me the courage and yes, the confidence to go on. I stopped all physical therapy, all other treatment, and I started weaning off the meds, which was huge. Of course, I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid of not taking opioids and feeling the pain stronger. But of course, it's a slow process, so it took a couple of months there, and I saw that the pain was always there, but wouldn't get worse. So again, better to be without the meds. And same thing with all the cushions. So I started, getting rid of all the cushions and sitting without them. So that was practical, and it was very
Yeah.
clever, as we all.
Exposure, creative
Yes,
exposure, and removing all the pain behaviors and the medication. So you were,
yes,
and the physical therapy. So you took all the physical stuff out and
yeah,
then started doing more physical activity, essentially.
yes.
Yeah.
So let's say that I tackled the practical stuff out of the way. It was the easy
Behavioral,
part for me.
behavioral stuff.
Yeah, behavioral stuff. And then I think at that point, more or less, or while I was winning off the meds, I reached out to you because I was not able to do the other part, the more emotional part, or I could understand things, but I couldn't apply and I couldn't feel. I was still in fear, and I couldn't feel the emotions. I remember one of the first times we talked, and I couldn't sit, so I was kneeling down. You told me, so how does the pain make you feel? Do you, and I said, frustrated. And where do you feel frustration? And I couldn't understand your question because I said, what does it mean? I know I'm frustrated, so I remember I did that. Okay, I wouldn't know that emotions can be felt in the body. And you told me, yes, that's alexithymia. You have a disconnection between your mind and your body. It was really hard to start feeling it. It took months for me to start feeling
Yeah,
something in
to
my body.
connect the
Yes,
words to the feelings in your body.
yes. And from there, it was a long journey of yes, lots of ups and downs.
Yeah, how long was
And
it again? Because you worked on and off for a while. How long was the journey, do you say?
oh, 2 years
2 years, yeah. That's good for
since
everybody to hear.
I started reading Sarno. It's 2 years because during the first year, I first part I read and I did all things that I mentioned, and then we started doing the one-to-one sessions, and then during the second year we did the group session. So I took part in your group sessions, and it was almost 1 year.
Yeah.
So yes, it took a long time. That's part of the issue when someone wants to be better and reads a lot about people that they take weeks, months, 2-3 months to be better. And yes, you read that you don't have to put a timeline to your healing, but you can't. You're desperate.
It's hard when you're, yeah. I mean, that makes logical sense. You have pain
Yes,
for something, you don't want it anymore. You want to be out of it now.
yes,
But
exactly.
yeah, to drop that, the nice to hear the longer timeline, 2 years.
Hmm.
Like I was telling you off air, I had my chronic hip pain. It took me 3 years. So
Yes,
it just takes what it takes, and you just keep going with the process. And you were a testament to that. I remember there were so many times you're doubting it and frustrated by it, and
mm,
talked about different things. So yeah, keep
yes,
going with the story. So you were starting to try to feel your emotions.
yes. Well,
What else?
first of all, I remember that the first big thing was fear. So I was afraid of sitting. Chairs to me looks like lions, really dangerous. I was looking at people sitting down without thinking, and I was jealous. I really thought, how can people sit like that without even thinking about it? So first thing, I had to work a lot on that, on reassuring myself when I sat.
Yeah, so
And
self-talk. You're talking about using some self-talk.
oh, I self-talked a lot. I had to I had like two brains, and I really
Yes.
had one brain had to talk to the other part, because once I sat, my first instinct was to stand up or to do something else. I had a standing desk, so I could easily stand and work. And I tried to stay there, but the thing is that you struggle at the beginning because you tend to ignore the pain, and that's
Mm.
bad because it just keeps on screaming louder and louder. So it's hard to understand the difference between distracting yourself positively with things, with life, and ignore. At the beginning, they look the same, but they are not the same, because you have to acknowledge the pain first and you assure yourself that you are fine. The thing is that you're fine. Well, no, at the beginning you don't know you're fine. You have to convince yourself that you're fine. But once you even know that intellectually, you don't feel fine, you feel broken. under many aspects. You feel broken, well, first physically, then you feel broken um, emotionally, because
Yeah.
you know that you can't you know, feel the feelings as you should.
Yeah.
And
Remember, just real quick, I want to highlight that to
yeah,
link back to your story, you said back to when the stress was happening, there was
yes,
a lot of shaming
hmm
going on towards you. And what you're talking about now sounds a lot like shame too. If we look at the underlying emotions of, not feeling
yes,
like you can get better, you're not good enough, you can't do it, I'm not doing enough, or not doing it right, or right. It's all
yes,
emotional category.
yes, feeling like I am the wrong one, let's say. Okay, I am the slow healer. I
The
am
black
doing some.
sheep. You can't ever get better. Everyone else is getting better, but except for me.
Yes. So there's doubt as well, because you say, will I ever get better? Maybe I'm the exception. Yes, millions, thousands of people get better with this TMS journey, but maybe I'm not. And you know,
Yeah.
that's why one of the things that I really recommend is to have your own evidence list.
Mhm.
That that was really important for me, because you can read whatever you want, but your own experiences mean a lot to you. So in moments of doubt, you go back to the moments where you had evidence that it was TMS. Like my first aha moments that I told before, when I could, get myself out of pain for 10 minutes, whatever. And I felt that it was it. And we have a lot. Each of us has a lot of moments like that, that are proof that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah,
You
I
have to
like
write
that.
it down.
Yeah, I
As
agree. Evidence list
silly
is so helpful.
as it seems, you have to write that down, because at some point you go back to it and you say, oh yes, it's wow, it's right, there was that and that and that. It can't be wrong. Okay, so it means a
Yeah,
lot to
once you're
me.
stuck in the high anxiety or amygdala hijack, you
Yes,
forget all that. You forget every
yes,
single thing on your list, and you
yeah,
have to come back to it again.
of course, because you just focus on the negative. It's like you focus on the pain. And so yes, I tackled fear first. And
And talk about that too. You tackle fear, but that
yes,
focus on the pain, because that's
oh
part of
yeah,
fear. The attention,
hypervigilance, attention,
hypervigilance. Yeah.
hypervigilance. I realized that when I woke up, there was a tiny fraction of time where I couldn't feel the pain, and then immediately went. And that was one of the items in my evidence list, because there was that tiny moment, and that was the attention. When you wake up, there's that moment where the brain is still asleep, and then once you get immediately your brain goes and check, is it still there? Yes, of course it's still there. Your brain will give it to you immediately. So
Yes, just to
uh
highlight that too, that, with this hypervigilance, and if you had chronic pain or something for a long time, it can be just as simple as literally putting your attention towards that body part for a moment or two and the pain starting. Like, I want the audience to know that that's very possible and probable for some of you. And I think it was for
yes,
you, and it was for me as well.
yes, well, it's so powerful that even now, if I think about the journey or the pain and everything, it comes up,
Yeah.
but now it makes you laugh, because you say,
Yeah,
oh, come
that's
on.
it. See, you have the right response to it. And I want to highlight that too, because as part of the recovery, that is a phase that to go through where
Yes,
your symptoms might be getting better, but
yeah,
you start going, oh, even the idea, oh, it's better. And then there's that second thought that says, well, what if it comes back? And then it does come back.
hmm,
And some
yes,
people
of
leave it
course.
there and they go down the rabbit hole, and you can't do that. You got to go, God, that's just my brain. Come on, laugh at it. It's a joke. You got to be kidding me.
Yes, yes. Well, I learned to laugh a lot. I had a lot of symptom imperatives in the journey as well. So other funny pains that came up, and your reaction, the first reaction is always the same. You go check, you try and think, what have I done wrong? Why is it there? Should I go to the doctor? And when you realize it's too weird to be there, there's something strange, then you say, oh, come on, it can't be that. Oh yes, and if you laugh about it, then you forget, and in a couple of hours it's gone. It's
That's it.
really it's crazy the way it works. But
You have to
you're
dismiss it. Yeah, you have to dismiss it. Or I always tell people, you just have to not believe it. You don't
yes,
believe it on any level that something's wrong. And then it's
yeah,
just like you said, it goes on its own.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we talked about hypervigilance, we talked about fear. Well, okay, about hypervigilance, fear. I used a lot of strategies, I have to say. So for instance, I had Sarno's reminders, or I built my own reminders, and I had them all over the place, on the fridge, on the computer, with me in a wallet, because I needed to be reminded all the time. And I listened to Dan Buglio every day, because no matter, at some point you learn this thing by heart, you know it, but you need practice, and you need to hear it over and over again.
It needs a lot of repetition. Like one of my other recovery stories said, he had a paragraph, he typed it down, it was in his phone, and
Mm-hmm.
he would just look at it and read it and read it, and until it got into his mind where he could bring it out right when he
Yes.
needed it, because it needs so much repetition, because the limbic
Yes.
brain's faster. It comes in first, and you've got
Yes.
to come in second with this response.
Yes, there are videos or recordings that you sent me that I know by heart, but for the times I listen to them. But the good thing is that in the different, they say that there is no one solution for all, but in this case there's not even one solution for you, because you go through different phases of
Mhm.
healing. And so
Mhm.
maybe one recording or one tool that you have is not that useful in one moment, but then it becomes useful because you are at that stage where you can use it and you understand it, or you need that. So it's really, the repetition is even good for that, because in different phases you understand some new parts of it, basically, or you feel them. So
Yeah, that's right. I think that's why there are so many different strategies and tools. And
mm,
there's a, just like your toolbox, there's a tool for each occasion.
yes,
And sometimes you don't always use the wrench or the hammer. You take out the
yes,
screwdriver, let's say, and use that one. Right. So you had a toolbox that you were building up. Just you're explaining it right now. You started to try to get
yeah,
in touch with your emotions more. You moved
yeah,
your attention away from hypervigilance. You worked to reduce your fear. You did a lot of affirmations and self-talk.
yes. Yes, so for fear, I use a lot of affirmations, self-talk, reassurance,
Yeah.
and also
And normalization. You
meditation
went back to activity. You didn't avoid
and activity.
activity.
Yes,
Yeah.
activity, and also somatic tracking.
And
That,
somatic
yes,
tracking. Yeah.
and somatic tracking, because that was good for me to start seeing, familiarize with the sensation, and stop seeing it as an enemy, but part of my body. Okay, I didn't really see a lot of changes when I only happen sometimes that my sensations shift, because many people are they are concerned, because when I do somatic tracking they can't feel this shift, or the pain doesn't go away. It's not the objective, it's not the aim of the practice is not to make it
Right.
go away, but just to start seeing differently.
Yeah.
So when starting observing it, being neutral, and that is, in my case, it helped me with fear. And
Absolutely.
the second step, and it was huge as well, was frustration. So after fear, I got frustration, because it was months in, almost a year, and I'm a good girl. I studied, I made a homework. Why is it still here? I'm not, I don't fear it. I sit now. So why are you still here?
I
And
remember
also,
that we went through, you got into the next emotion. You got
yes,
over fear. Now you're like, now I'm pissed. Why isn't it
yeah,
going away? I did all this.
yes. Well, we are laughing now, but ooh, it's
Yeah, I
hard.
know.
It's hard, and I have to say that many TMSers, we are fixers. We are overachievers. We are problem solvers, and that is. And you mentioned shame before, and as you taught me, shame is anger towards ourselves. So since I learned when I was a kid that anger was a bad emotion, then I would never direct it to other people. I would point it at myself, and that was really bad. I had to work a lot on shame. And so I started with self-compassion. I read books about self-compassion and indulgence. I was not indulgent with myself. I wanted to have everything fast and be the best, not against others, but with myself. So I always wanted to see progress. I didn't
Mm.
tolerate myself in a low time. I wouldn't tolerate lows in my journey. So that was frustration. And there I had to learn surrendering, which is
Mhm.
very hard, because surrendering at the beginning sounds like giving up, giving up to pain, saying, okay, the pain is there, I can't do anything. No, surrendering is letting go. And many people just don't know what it means to let go. We are not used to let go. We are fixers. And, in our work, often in society, we are praised if we problem solve. So
Mhm.
we are prone to problem solve. And that was a problem and I wanted to solve it.
Yeah.
So there, I think I started meditating, and was huge because I basically discovered what it meant to be in nature. So I started going to the local park here, and I would just listen to meditations or even classical music then, and that I I started feeling my feelings. I started
Mm.
crying, which I think is the easiest, but then I would started recognize and acknowledge my feelings, and that was a huge part, of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You hit upon a bunch of things here with the
mm,
self-compassion,
mm,
the mindfulness, the relaxation, getting in touch with your emotions. Yeah, these are all really important to look and catch the shame that was
mhm.
coming into yourself. Yeah.
And I have to say it's hard because it takes time. I remember I had to dedicate time every day to this, to
Yeah.
meditate, and I had to put boundaries to other people, to work, uh, a lot of stuff. And it's hard. It's not. It has also, it affects your life. But it's good. When I heard people say that, they were grateful to their pain, I couldn't understand, but now I can, because
Now you can. Yeah, that's the thing.
it
You
works.
it forced, if you think about it, everything you're mentioning, it forced you to change who you were.
Yes.
Who you are as a person, right? And how you deal with things, and which is pretty incredible.
I'm totally different now. I can say that recently I I fought with my boyfriend. I actually could reply to him and I got angry, and I never did before. And it felt good. It was a petty discussion. It was nothing serious, but I just stood up for myself and I felt good. It was I before I feared conflict, and you taught me that conflict is fine, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And actually my boyfriend came back and apologized to me and said,
I see you
and
got
I
the results you wanted, yet
yes.
we're so scared of conflict. I mean, I was so scared too. But the thing is that we try to do all the other things to get that, apology. We people please and be extra nice and don't say
Yeah.
anything. But the very thing you did that you're scared to do solves the problem.
Yes. Actually, when he came to apologize, I said, so it works when I get a bit angry. And he said, yes, you should do more,
Oh,
so
good. Well,
uh,
that sounds like a nice partner who he's encouraging you to.
yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you, since you can understand, since he's a physiotherapist, he really lived with me the whole thing, and he was frustrated, and it was hard for him as well. And here, I think it's a it's a common topic that it's hard for family to understand the healing journey with
Yeah.
TMS. So, and it was really hard for him because, of course, he had studied that yes, pain comes from physical injury, so he had to believe as well, but he saw progress, and so he was there for me. And yes, he encouraged me all the time. And I think it was useful for him as well, and his
Mm.
work, because he's now more aware of the psychological and emotional component of pain in many of his patients as well.
Yeah, that's the downstream good effects of it. Like something
Mm,
you're better, but also he's now has it in his mind, working with
yes.
other people, maybe to think about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
um but to go back to anger and surrendering, I have to say that in that phase of recovery, I used a lot of images, I have to say, because as you said before, the limbic brain is very quick, and so he gets there first. And sometimes when I didn't have the time, I didn't want to go through all my notes, an image is more powerful. And so I remember one one image that you share was you remember the dam, so the water that comes down, and you can't do anything to stop it. If you let it flow, it will flow, and nothing will happen basically. And the more you try to move, the muddier the water becomes. If you stand still and you wait and you relax, it will become clear. That was one powerful image. And the other one, I want to share it just because it might be helpful, or everyone then can change and work on it and find his own one. But for surrendering, there was another one that I made up myself, which was I'm in the driving seat, which is good because we are in the driving seat. It's not the pain, it's us on the driving seat. And I have my child beside me, he's 5, 6 or whatever, and maybe he was traumatized because he had a car accident or something, and whenever he gets into the car, he starts screaming and crying, and that he's fine because nothing happened, but it's annoying, it's disturbing, this crying. You want him to stop, and but there's nothing you can do to make him stop. He has to understand that everything is fine. He has to go through his trauma, and you can just reassure him that everything is fine. Then he will stop crying. You can't just, if you try to stop him and or you scream on top of him, it will only get worse. And so you can only keep driving. You can't ignore him, because if you turn up the volume and sing, he will scream louder to be heard. Okay, and that's the pain. If you try to just ignore it, he will scream louder.
That's right.
And,
That's right. So you kind of had this image. It sounds like you came up with this idea in your mind, which sounds great, of how you're perceiving this.
Yeah, because it basically teaches you to, first of all, to be kind to yourself, because you would be kind to a kid because he's scared. He's just scared. He's not bad. He's scared. And to know that you have to keep driving. You just have to keep driving, and you will see, he will experience that everything is fine, and he will stop crying. He will get distracted with something outside, or with the music, or with what you're saying, and he will stop crying with time. And sometimes he will still start crying again because maybe there's a bump in the road or something, but that's just the memory of it, and it will go. I mean, the events will become fewer and shorter, and the same happened with me. So basically, I started having times of the day where the pain was less strong, and then and these times got a bit more, and especially when I was distracted, and when I went out with friends, or I had a good thing. This, I wouldn't say pain-free, but my attention was not there.
And as like I said, as your attention was elsewhere, which again was no hypervigilance, or low hypervigilance, low fear, what happens is the symptom loses its intensity, right? It loses its strength, and now it's starting to go away at times. And sure, if you put your attention back there, you can turn it on, but now right, without a shadow of a doubt, what this is, and you're not scared by it anymore. And you can honestly put your attention probably somewhere else now, right? A lot easier without being drawn to it.
And so then these hours became days, and then the days became weeks, and I didn't even realize, as you said, I remember at some point you told me your healing will be gradual, and by the moment you will be healed, you won't realize, because you're not thinking about it. You're living your life. And that's exactly what happened. I remember that in the second year of my healing, I took part to your group sessions, which were really good, because part of it is that you feel part of a community and people can understand your own journey. And it was good to go through the anger and feeling the feelings. It was really good for me to feel the feelings, the group sessions, and I didn't want to stop. You remember that I wrote you a couple of times and I said, I don't know where to stop, or maybe I should. Because, well, you are afraid, and also the pain has been the center of your life for so much time that you
Yeah.
are a bit afraid of what can happen afterwards. But it's just, your life.
It's better. That's another chapter in the recovery is when
Yes.
you stop, going for treatments and even if it's healthy stuff, you're starting to live your life again
Yes.
in a more free way. And that's like right. That's like a chapter towards the end of the book.
Yes, I have to say that even stopping the sessions was a therapy in itself, because
Yeah.
I had to stop thinking, doing something about it. Even the session where was doing something about it, and I had done already everything that I had to do. I just had to, it was letting go, finally letting go and going back to life,
Yes.
actually.
Letting go. It's like, a pair of crutches. You use them for a while and then you discard them, or anything. You don't keep carrying it around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. I mean, your story is great because it's one of perseverance. It's one of you using a bunch of different strategies and continuing
Mm-hmm.
forward. And I remember there's so many times that you were, like you said, frustrated and feeling stuck, but here you are now
Yes.
sharing your story, which is so incredible. And I love to hear it and I love to see it. So, I mean, what would you say to people that are still out there struggling? What would be your advice?
Well, if they are here, they have already taken a big step, because
Yeah.
they have found the mind body world, and they are giving it a chance. So it's already, because I fear, I mean, I think that people resistance to this kind of journey is the main obstacle. Once you give it a chance, then you just have to be patient, and don't focus too much on your symptoms, because that's what I noticed when I talk to people that are in pain. They say, no, but my symptom is that, it's they focus on the details of the symptom, on they feel that their one is different, but it doesn't matter. The brain can create all sorts of experiences. Really, I was amazed.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter the details of it.
That's right.
As
It's
Sarna.
more, it's not, people, that's the problem. People, if the symptom becomes the center of attention and obviously in a negative way,
Yes.
and that blows it up. So you really broke it down over a period of time. You broke the conditioning down, you broke down fear, worked with the other emotions, you broke down the hypervigilance. And in a way, you just got
Yes.
more and more back to your life over a period of time. And now here you are.
Well,
So
I am a living gradual exposure, because it was very gradual for me, from point of view. But I remember one of the things that you told me, one of the times that I was stuck, was confidence, trust.
yeah.
You know, the fact that you are in the driving seat, really. I remember the once I had a flare up and I was doubting, and I said, you know what? No, I can't remember, but by March, I will be fine, because if you think about it, it's neural pathways. If you write with your right hand and you break it and you have to teach your left hand to write, at the beginning it seems impossible, but it's just a matter of practice and will, and the neural pathways will be there. And at the beginning it will be bad, and you won't be able to write well, and you will get frustrated, yes, but you will get there. It's just a matter of practice and time and confidence that you will get there. And it's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. It's the brain is simple, is but it's very powerful. The thing is, it's very powerful in creating bad things, but it's as powerful also in healing, so you can use it for your own good.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to tell people. They just need to trust and find their own strategy, what works for them.
Yeah.
And they can rely on the community without comparing too much, because
Yeah, that's
yes.
key. The comparison. Yeah. Yeah. It's each person has their own journey.
Yeah.
And like you said, you got to figure it out. So that's awesome. I'm so happy you came on, Elisabetta,
Thank you, Dean.
and
Yes.
share this story. I know we talked about one day you want to be a success story. So I'm just so happy for you that you're here now and give
I
hope
made it.
to a lot of other people. Your story
Hopefully.
will resonate with other people. And again, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your success.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Ciao, dude.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.